Alright, here we go. Lost the pen. No, got the pen. Alright, chapter 15. The giant's house. This one starts out with Loki causing problems. What does Loki do to get in trouble? How does he get in trouble? Yes?
He takes for his falcon dress.
He steals the falcon dress again and he becomes a pretty falcon. And that in itself would get him in trouble with Freya, but he uses it to go to Jotunheim because he has heard of an evil giant. He has heard of a guy named Geirrod. Geirrod is known because he hates somebody. Who does Geirrod hate so much the word has gotten out misclick? He hates Thor. He despises Thor. All he talks about all day long is how much he'd like to kill Thor. He has two absolutely hideous daughters. Their names are Gjalp. There we go. Gjalp and Grit, which is supposed to sound ugly too. And they hate Thor just as much as their father does. Loki perches in their window and listens to them talk about all the ways they'd like to kill Thor. I'd like to kill Thor this way. Oh, I'd like to kill him that way and this way. I'd like to kill him that way, and the other way. And that's how they spend their day. And Loki's like, yeah, these are my kind of people. And they look up and they see the bird, and they know this is not an ordinary bird. Why? How can they tell just looking at him, this is not an ordinary bird? How?
Because of his eyes.
His eyes. Loki's eyes are looking out of the bird, so they know it's him. Or they know it's somebody. He makes the mistake of teasing them. They try to catch him, and he flaps a little away. And they try to catch him, and he flaps a little away, and he gets caught in the vines. And before he can entangle himself, they grab him, and they bring him down, and they interrogate him. But he won't tell them who he is, so they put him in the box. They put Loki in the box for a month. And he is on the verge of starving to death when he finally takes off the cloak and says, please let me out, I'll do anything. Yes? 3 months?
3 months.
Wow, 3 months. Okay. 3 months in the box. You don't talk to the giants, you spend a night in the box. No Cool Hand Luke fans in here. Alright, so he spends 3 months in the box and they finally let him out. He promises to do something for them. What does he do to obtain his freedom? And it's what he would love to do anyway. What does he promise? Yes?
He brings Thor to him.
Weaponless. Yes. He is going to bring an unarmed Thor in return for his freedom. And so he makes his way back to Asgard. And on the way, he feeds himself up. He's been starving for 3 months, but on the way back he gorges himself so that when he gets into Asgard, he's like, whoa, I can barely walk. His belly is distended. And they say, Loki, where have you been for 3 months? And of course Freya says, where's my dress been? He gives the dress back. Yeah, this won't fit me anymore. I've been eating too well. And someone says, eating really well? Where have you been eating so well? Who really likes to eat according to most of the stories? Besides Loki. Who's the other one? Come on, who is it? Yeah. Thor. Thor has a great appetite. He says, Loki, where are you? Because remember, what does Loki know about everybody? What can Loki see about each one of us? Ms. Heisenlari? Their greatest weakness. Thor's greatest weakness is apparently his appetite. He can't control his appetite. And so, he's intrigued by the idea that Loki has eaten somewhere really well. And Loki says, I've gotten hospitality from my good friend Geirrod. Boy, Thor, you should see the table he sets. And Thor says, well, I'd like to see the table he sets. Food? Okay. So Loki says, great, come with me, I'll introduce you. Oh, but Thor, you can't bring your weapons to my friend's house. I can't have you showing up and dishonoring me. So Thor takes off his iron gloves. He takes off his belt of strength and leaves it behind. And he takes Mjolnir out. He leaves Mjolnir with his sons. And he goes off with Loki to the house of Geirrod. He has no idea that Geirrod is a giant. Now on the way there, they stop at a spring so that they can fill their water bottles. And while they're filling their spring, Thor sees a good giantess that he knows. We don't know how Thor knows this good giantess, but he looks up and he sees Grid. Grid, the good giantess. And she invites him into her cave. Loki does not see her. Thor talks to her and asks about Girod. She says, "What are you doing around here, Thor? This is Jotunheim." And he says, "Well, Loki is taking me to his good friend Girod to meet him. He said he wanted to meet me." And Grid looks at him in amazement and says, "You shouldn't go anywhere near Girod's house. He hates you." So she warns him. And so Thor realizes. This is a really crushing moment for Thor. Thor realizes that Loki is betraying him. And this is where Thor shows a little bit of guile. Meaning he himself, up until now, he has not been able to deceive anybody. But with Grid's help, he is going to deceive Loki. Grid gives Thor, what does she just happen to have laying around the cave? What does she happen to have, Princess? She just happens to have a belt of power just like Megan Yard. And she loans it to Thor. What else does she happen to have that he's left behind that might come in handy? Yeah. Go back.
Iron gloves.
And, well, one iron glove. He's just got one. So she uses it like an oven mitt. So it's kind of a Michael Jackson look. All right. So what's the last one? She doesn't have a hammer, so she can't hammer in the morning. But what does she happen to have? Yes.
She has a magic staff that looks just like a walking stick.
Yeah, she has a staff. So from Grid, he gets a belt. He gets a glove, one glove, and he gets a magic unbreakable staff. It's not as good as the hammer, but it's going to come in handy. Now, as they approach, one of the giant sisters tries to flood the river and drown Thor. She causes the river to flood. This is a children's book, so this part is not in there, but you should be aware of it. The giantess is upriver, and I believe the euphemism is she is making water in the river. She's peeing, and the river is flooding with her urine. Well, Thor takes the magic staff and flicks a boulder upriver, pretending he doesn't see the giantess. He flicks a boulder, which stops her from peeing. He hits her just right with the boulder. She stops peeing. And so Thor makes it across the river. He gets to the household of Girod. Yes, notice I'm not writing on the board about the peeing. Girod pretends to welcome Thor. And this is, in essence, a warning against false hospitality. He pretends to welcome Thor into his home with every intention of killing him. He wants to kill Thor. He means to kill Thor. And so this is false hospitality. He welcomes him in and says, "Why don't you go to your room, little Thor? I'll have you in for dinner in a little while." Now Thor goes into his room and he sits on a chair. What happens when he sits on that chair in his room? Oh yeah, I should mention this first. As soon as Girod welcomes Thor, Loki is out of there. He's gone. He does not want to be around for this conflict. He's worried. He doesn't think Thor can survive, but he doesn't want to be collateral damage. He knows it's going to be a heck of a fight, and so he doesn't want to be around this. So Loki is hurrying back to Asgard. He's actually got something he wants to do there. Okay, so Thor sits on the chair in his room. What kind of weird thing happens? Yes? It shoots up toward the ceiling. It's going to crush him against the ceiling. The giant sisters are under the chair. This must be a big chair. Here are the giant sisters underneath the chair trying to push Thor against the roof. Here in this interpretation, Thor is about the same size as the giants. You know, in some of the stories it seems like they're the same size. In some stories it seems like the giants are much bigger. Well, Thor catches himself against the roof with the staff, and pushes back down and snaps their spines. So he plays Spinal Cracker on both of them and kills both giant daughters. Then he goes back into the hall to confront Girod. How does Girod attempt to slay Thor? Yes? Yeah, there's a wedge of iron, kind of a pointy triangular piece of metal, and it's been in the fire for a while, so it's glowing red hot. And Girod picks it up with a pair of tongs and hurls it at Thor. But Thor has his Michael Jackson glove on, and he catches it and hurls it back. Remember, he's got the belt of strength too. He hurls it back with such force that when Girod hides behind a pillar, it not only goes through the pillar and through Girod, but it goes through the house and out into the hill behind. So this piece of iron slays the giant. So Girod is dead, Gyalp and Greep are dead, all the giants are dead, and Thor is still alive. He makes his way back home. He stops off at Grid's spring and gives her her stuff back. And he marches on to Asgard. And when he gets to Asgard... Oh, too far. When he gets to Asgard, he discovers they are all doing what? What is everybody doing? Yes?
Mourning his death.
Yes. Loki has sung Thor's death song. I don't know why I was saying that. Thor's death song. What this means is, remember, this is a pre-literate culture. Yeah, they have those runes, but most people can't read. So if you want to be remembered, you better set your deeds to music so that people can remember them. This is how you glorify a fallen man, is by singing a song of all his accomplishments. Why would Loki sing a song that glorifies Thor's accomplishments? Why would he do that? Yeah? Sorry? Well, A, so people won't think he's responsible for the death of Thor, but also he wants them to miss Thor even more. Remember, he wants to cause misery and pain. He wants them all weeping. So what could make them even more sad than usual? If he glorifies Thor's accomplishments, if he reminds them of all the wonderful things Thor's ever done for them, it's going to make it hurt so much more. He understands people's weaknesses. Loki knows where to hit them. He knows that he's going to destroy the Aesir if they think Thor is dead. Now Thor walks back in, and everybody stops. And everybody looks at Loki. And Thor goes to get his hammer, and he is all set to take hammer time to Loki. Who stops him? Who will not let him slay Loki? Yes?
Odin.
Odin. Because Odin is his?
Blood brother.
Exactly. Blood brotherhood is important enough that he does not want him to kill his blood brother. But what does Thor do? What vengeance does he take on Loki? Well, yeah.
Doesn't he destroy his palace and make it so he doesn't have like any safe place really to be?
That's exactly right. He gets the bell rung, so we'll finish